Hello, crafters and artisans, and welcome to Psychedelic Squid Fiberites. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made new custom leather pieces for this wheel. To start, you'll need new leather of the appropriate weight, measuring tape, a pen or pencil, a box cutter, a leather edge polisher, also known as a burnishing tool, and it looks like this, boiling water, leather oil, I like to use a neat's foot, a drill and drill bits, and a French edge skeeving tool, which looks like this. Additionally, you may also need zip ties and leather burnishing gum. Here, you can see the leather that I need to replace, specifically the piece on the right, but I'm also going to replace the one on the left. First, remove the old leather and save as much of it as you can to create a template for the new leather pieces. Trace the old pieces as best you can, and then go back over it to clean up the outline. You'll want to try to smooth the edges and make the pieces symmetrical. After that, you'll want to take a few measurements. For the eye of the leather meant to hold the flyer, I measured 7/16 inch, and for the thickness of the leather, I got around 3/16 of an inch. For the other piece, I got around 1/8 to 3/16 inch thickness. This will help me pick out the weight/thickness of the new leather. Then, I'm going to cut my templates out, and then I'm going to use vegetable tanned leather scrap pieces to pick out the different thicknesses I'm going to need for my new leather pieces. These scrap packs work perfectly for me. I got them at Tandy, and I'm going to trace my pieces onto the leather for both pieces, and I'm going to cut these out using a box cutter. I'm using a fresh blade to make it easier, but please be careful not to injure yourself while doing this. Then, I'm going to use my French edging tool to cut the corners off the leather. This is going to make it easier to burnish the edges later. I'm going to do all this on the front edges and the back edges for both pieces. Next, I'm going to harden the leather using boiling water so that the pieces keep the shape. This method will only work on vegetable tanned leather, not oil tanned leather. For this piece, it's held in place by a round wood dowel across the back, so I'm going to have to recreate that shape. I'm using a small piece of wood dowel and zip ties to make that shape. I'm going to submerge the leather in the hot water for about 6 seconds. Please be careful because the water is going to be hot. I'm going to tighten the second zip tie around the leather to make sure it holds its shape. And then I'm going to hold it on the flyer end as it cools, about 30 seconds. You only have a few seconds to shape the leather, so make it count. Now that it's cool, you can see that it retains its shape nicely. For the next piece, I can leave it in the water for a little longer since it's a thicker piece of leather. I'm leaving this part of the video in real time so you can see just how long I'm leaving it in there to get it started. Again, please be careful, the water is hot. I'm going to be placing the leather between two pieces of wood to keep it perfectly flat for about 30 seconds. You can see here how it turned out, but I want to leave it to dry on a flat surface. Here, you can actually see the piece that I overcooked. The edges are a bit black and the whole piece is darker than it should be. Once this piece completely dried, it was too brittle for me to use, so I ended up having to make another one. But I didn't know that at the time, and I went ahead and burnished the edges on this piece using my burnishing tool. I use a little bit of water and a lot of friction to smooth the edges. Here's the other piece with the untreated edges, and this is what it looks like after you've burnished them. See how it's smooth and almost shiny? You can use burnishing gum on the edges to speed the process up. I didn't though because I'm not sure if it'll interfere with the leather being oiled. Here's the piece after it's been fully burnished. You can also burnish the raw edge of the leather to make it smoother like I did. Now that I'm done burnishing the edges of the leather, I drilled the holes out in the leather using the measurements I took earlier. Now, I'm going to wait for my pieces to completely dry, and once they are, I'm going to apply oil to them until they're fully saturated. When they're saturated, they won't absorb any more oil. I only do this for the very first time I'm oiling the pieces, because the leather should never get oiled this heavily again. If you do, it can soften the leather too much and cause it to lose its shape. Now, we're finally done with new leather pieces for your wheel. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below, and thanks again for joining me in exploring the depths of your creativity, and I'll see you next time.